Houston, coming up this hour, we dive into the biggest topics of the day, including Texas school districts unlikely to see a significant increase in per-student funding next year. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. We'll also talk with Harris County Homeland Security and Emergency Management Coordinator Mark Sloan about the upcoming hurricane season.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll have a list of our pop culture favorites with our weekly Current Obsessions.
And as Ernie, Frank, and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, your questions, and concerns. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
All that and more right here on Hello Houston after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Talks between Russian and Ukrainian delegations in Turkey are over. They were supposed to focus on ending Russia's war in Ukraine. President Trump is on his way home from his trip to the Middle East. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Trump decided not to stop in Istanbul for the talks.
At the beginning of his trip, President Trump teased that he might go to Turkey, but Russian President Vladimir Putin didn't show up. And Trump said this morning he doesn't think anything will happen until they meet.
You know, they all said Putin was going and Zelensky was going, and I said, if I don't go, I guarantee Putin's not going. And he didn't go, and I understand that, but we're going to get it. We're going to get it done. We got to get it done.
Trump said it's time, and that he'll meet Putin as soon as a meeting can be set up. He didn't go to Turkey today because, he said, he needs to get back to meet his new grandchild. His daughter, Tiffany, just had a baby. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, Abu Dhabi.
From Mumbai, NPR's Dia Hadid reports that President Trump has lashed out at the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, after he said that most iPhones sold in the U.S. will come from India. That may complicate India's hopes of replacing China as a global base for iPhone manufacturing.
President Trump said this during his whistle-stop tour of the Gulf.
I said, Tim, look, we've treated you really good. We put up with all the plants that you built in China for years. Now you got to build us. We're not interested in you building in India.
It came after CNBC quoted Tim Cook as saying that he expected most iPhones to be built in India. India has long sought to siphon more iPhone manufacturing from China. It already makes nearly 15% of all iPhones. India is also negotiating a trade deal with the United States, which it hopes will curb 26% tariffs that Trump has vowed to slap on the country. It's so far unclear if these tensions over where iPhones should be built will hinder that deal. Dia Hadid, NPR News, Mumbai.
Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial in New York will conclude a week of testimony today, with the defense cross-examining the prosecution's star witness. R&B singer Cassie Ventura has alleged in graphic detail that her powerful hip-hop mogul ex-boyfriend had for years sexually and physically and emotionally abused her, forced her into taking part in drug-fueled sex parties, and prevented her from pursuing her music career. NPR's Isabela Gomez-Sarmiento says the defense is attempting to undermine her testimony.
The defense admitted that Combs has been violent, but they say he didn't coerce or traffic anyone. So when they began cross-examining Ventura, they relied heavily on text message evidence. They had her read out loud these loving, caring texts she exchanged with Combs over the years. The defense is really trying to establish grounds for consent.
NPR's Isabela Gomez-Sarmiento. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. 1 year ago today, the region learned the word derecho firsthand. News 88.7's Tom Perumian looks back at the fierce storm that ravaged Houston.
The storms rapidly strengthened just after 6 o'clock last night.
By the time it was over, 1 million people were without electricity, tons of shattered glass in the streets, a lot of trees uprooted, their broken branches in the roadways. Into the breach came the team from downtown Houston Plus.
We had crews from over a dozen local contractors show up that morning to help our team sweep up all the glass. They were working around the clock, and so we're very proud of the response. It's just emblematic about how this community comes together in the face of those types of challenges.
Downtown Houston Plus CEO Chris Larson says recovery work is still ongoing and that more trees have been planted than were lost to the derecho and Hurricane Beryl. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
A Houston police officer shot and killed someone who was in the middle of a mental health crisis yesterday. Authorities say they were responding to a potential crisis when the man they were trying to help started charging at them with a knife. This happened at an apartment complex near Harmony Public Schools off of Sam Houston Tollway. The suspect died at the hospital from his injuries. Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth all have one thing in common. They are the fastest sinking cities in the country, with Houston leading the way. Speaking on Hello Houston, Leonard O'Hennihan, a researcher with Columbia University's Climate School, shares more.
For Houston, that still has some coastal areas in the city. You have two dynamics happening when you discuss relative sea level rise or sea level rise issues. The oceans are rising and now the land is dropping. And so you have areas that would be below the water sooner than anticipated.
O'Hennihan attributes the subsidence to years of pumping oil and gas and groundwater, leaving voids in the ground that are collapsing. It's 83 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, a personalized program that bases rates on safe driving habits, at Progressive.com. Not available in California or from all agents. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
It's Friday.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Frank.
Did you miss me?
Oh, is this kind of like your Wednesday?
Yeah, I only did put in 2 days of work this week up until now. Yeah.
Right.
Must be nice.
It's been a busy week, and we made it to the end.
Very busy.
Indeed.
Yesterday, we had quite the engagement.
The calls. I was watching from afar, and people were interested.
You were
Yes.
you were watching. Oh yes, you know what? So much so that we've booked an immigration attorney for Monday.
Oh, great.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ross Miller. So he's going to be here and answer all your questions, along with, I think, Sheriff Gonzalez is going to be in.
Yes,
Gonzalez.
that's right.
So we're
Sheriff
going to have a really good question answer
next week.
next Monday on
Yeah,
all of this.
next
But
So-
that
Monday.
doesn't mean you can't ask us questions today and join the conversation throughout the show or watch us on YouTube.
I'm
All of
watching
that
us on YouTube as we speak.
Yes.
I got to watch us on YouTube yesterday,
Yeah.
and it's a different experience
It
than
is.
just listening.
It is. One of my favorite parts of this YouTube community is the chats and the chatting and the comments, and people start talking to each other. So, yeah, Hello Houston, where Houston talks.
Yeah. Okay,
all
Frank.
2 hours.
You
About
kept
the heat.
Yes, you kept promising us it was going to get hot, and you did not lie.
You know, yesterday was miserable.
Tell me.
And we're starting to feel now the humidity, which means it's not going to be probably as hot. It's just going to be humid and hot. So the feels like numbers are going to be around 101, 102 degrees today, tomorrow, Sunday. It's just a hot weekend.
And it's pretty early in the season to be this hot. Am I right or no?
It is. I looked back, and this is a May that is on par with 2022 when we had the hottest June ever, the hottest July ever, a 100-day streak that almost rivaled 2011. I mean, 2022 was a tough summer. This is looking to be very similar. You've got an event outdoors tomorrow, don't you?
I do.
What are
I
you
will
doing?
be at iFest as the MC.
Oh, fun.
It's the international festival here in Discovery Green.
So
and
you're
it's
outdoors,
free.
yeah.
I'm outdoors and
Sunscreen.
sunscreen.
But
yes,
it's evening. It's a later
It's
event.
at 3 o'clock on, and it's free. It's a great family event. They're going to have a lot of performers, and it's going to be a fun time.
No,
Come
it's
see
a
me.
Very fun time. And there's not going to be any rain, so there's the upside.
That
Just
is the
dress
upside.
cool and light clothes and all that, and
Right.
take lots of bottled water or your beverage of choice.
Well, it's interesting we're talking so much.
Gatorade.
Thinking.
It's interesting
Frank
we're
is always
talking so much
calling me out
about
my
weather
preparedness.
because a lot of today's show is going to be talking about what we can expect, what's coming
there's
this
a
year,
lot
how we can be
happening.
prepared.
Well, and the Pacific hurricane season started yesterday. That starts on May 15th. And I've actually wrote a blog about the fact that we should probably start ours on May 15th.
Oh, really?
Because we've had, in the last 10 years, we've seen May activity almost every year of some sort, not hurricanes, but at least tropical storms have formed in May very often since 2010. So it's not unheard of. And it would, the sooner the better, but that's not going to happen.
Well, throughout the show today, we will hear from both Harris County's emergency management and the City of Houston's emergency management. That's all coming up. But as always, we like to begin the day with the headlines and the topics of the day. Celeste, lead us off.
Texas school districts' best chance of seeing a significant increase in per-student funding next year now appears unlikely. After weeks of negotiation, a panel of Texas senators met Thursday to discuss a multifaceted public education finance package that would dedicate an additional $8 billion to Texas public schools. We've been monitoring HB 2 as it makes its way through the legislature. The revision keeps the $8 billion investment approved by the Texas House of Representatives. But instead of spending $3 billion to increase per-student funding, it spends $4 billion directly on teacher pay. Texas A&M school finance professor Lori Taylor said it would be better to give school districts a general increase, saying state lawmakers have to recognize that the cost of living, cost of hiring, cost of education have all gone up while the basic allotment has stayed the same. And that has created fiscal stress for school districts throughout the state. This bill is the result of ongoing negotiations, again, between leaders in the House and Senate who have worked to find middle ground between their diverging funding proposals as the end of the 2025 legislative session approaches. What are your thoughts? More money for teachers or more money to improve school districts? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I guess I'm a little confused on this story.
Yes.
Because when you say you increase money per student funding, where does that money go as opposed to isn't part of that teacher salaries, schools, all that stuff? So what are they saying?
I believe the percentage of how much of the $8 billion is going to go per student will now go towards teacher increased pay.
But when you give money per student, what are they getting?
Recreational fields and band equipment and baseball bats,
things and uniforms,
things that make school happen.
No, students. Yeah. That's for students.
Yes.
Right, but it is given. It's not to students for individual students. It's
no,
given to
that would be the school vouchers that we thought about all
school materials, school facilities, things like that.
Yeah. I don't believe it goes to facilities. This is per student. It is all of their extracurricular things like per student for the school.
Right. And sometimes,
I don't think I understand. Not having a student in the school system, I don't know what the costs are necessarily. But if it's per student, I would think it means for the student experience, which would include teachers.
But it doesn't. It doesn't include teachers.
No.
That's a separate funding.
That's a separate funding.
Okay.
And what happened to our school vouchers that we're going to?
Oh, I'm sure they're.
We had to have $1 billion for that.
Yeah.
And yet the money for the school experience has now been taken away. And not that teachers don't deserve a raise. Absolutely they do.
And that's one thing. I think one of the benefits of this is I will always be a major proponent of increasing pay for teachers.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes teachers are putting in their own money for their classroom and for things for their students. And so we have to keep – the way you keep public school competitive is by having good teachers. The way you – get good teachers, you recruit good teachers is through good pay.
And you got to keep
pay.
them.
And you have to keep them. You want to retain them.
Especially with all the changes they're going through now, with all of the eyes on what they're doing and how often, and they're getting graded themselves. So, yes, you got to at least say, hey, you're making some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the state is capable of doing both. But, pay competitiveness is key. And I think that will drive more families where the good teachers are, which also leads to more support by parents for public school. So it's a tough one.
I'm just still confused. But I feel okay saying I'm confused. I just don't understand what is the per student funding, because it sounds like what we're talking about are basically school administrative costs for books, costs for uniforms, costs for instruments, that seems like a school cost as opposed to a per student expense, which I don't understand what that is. So if you're out there and you understand it better, give me a call so I can get a better handle on this. 713-440-8870. I don't know why it's your job to do my research, but I ask for your help on this one. I think it's a terminology thing for me that I'm not quite there on it. Okay, 713-440-8870. Ready to move on, or you guys got more on the student funding?
No, I like your next subject.
Yeah. Let's go to it. Let's talk tariffs. Walmart has said U.S. tariffs on imports from China and other countries will force the retail giant to begin raising some prices as soon as this month. The company's CEO said Thursday many items on the store's shelves are costing more for the company and will start costing more for shoppers too. Walmart's finance chief said the higher prices were likely to come as soon as this month. As I mentioned, the CEO said he thanked President Trump and the Treasury Secretary for the progress made recently with a deal that temporarily eased China tariffs from 145% down to 30%. McMillan said he's the CEO. He hoped for a long-term agreement for even lower taxes on Chinese imports. So the question comes, what are you thinking about these tariffs? Are you surprised to see they're starting to impact or will start to impact the cost of things? Also, Walmart's built a reputation on the place to go for low prices, and they want to keep that going. If their prices go up, will you still shop there? 713-440-8870.
Do I think tariffs are going to have an impact? Yes. Do I think it's way too early to tell? Yes. I think no one needs to start making major changes until they actually see their receipts get bigger. And then you also have to ask yourself, what good alternatives are there to people for most people besides Walmart?
Well, that's fair. I mean, it brings shopping back into mind, right? You're going to have to shop around.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it makes retail more competitive.
It makes
And
retail
You
more
start going to
competitive.
other places.
Walmart is known for, and they push it, they have lower prices. They have a really good price point in the marketplace. Regardless of what you think of Walmart as an entity, they usually have the low prices. That's their big thing that they push for. Of course, prices are going to have to go up if there's tariffs, and we're already hearing about less and less product coming into the country, which of course pushes up the price. The whole concept behind the tariffs also is that if external items cost more, then the U.S. prices will be more competitive or lower, so people would buy U.S., but I don't think we're there yet in manufacturing and service and supply.
Can I make one point?
Yes.
Because my parents lived almost their whole life in Helena, Arkansas. Little town. It's 30,000, right? Walmart came in and virtually destroyed Main Street, as it did in many, many places, because it has your pharmacy, your groceries, your clothes, everything you want is at Walmart.
Right.
And honestly, in Helena, Arkansas, the only place to go shopping is Walmart. I mean, that's it. And that is true of a lot of places. So you kind of wonder, do they really have to already start having tariff increases at Walmart, which is by far one of the wealthiest chains in the world?
A big point, because their profit margin is so high.
Huge. And now they're saying, we have to. Yeah.
Can they not absorb some of that in the short term?
And to Celeste's point, it's too early, I think, to say, we have to raise all our prices because of tariffs. Yeah.
Well, Amazon wanted to put online. We talked about this before.
They'd have the guts to
they
do it.
wanted to
show me the receipts.
That's right. And President Trump called them out.
Let me finish saying what it was. They were going to put on the pricing. They were going to add how much of that was because of tariff increase, so that the consumer would know what the price would be and what the tariff is increased to.
At least restaurants are now putting, they're charging like $3 or whatever for a credit card fee, and they'll put that on your receipt. And sometimes they automatically not only add a service fee but an additional tip. I mean, at least restaurants are honest about what they're charging you. Whereas I think Amazon.
Waffle House.
They should put tariffs.
Waffle House, 50 cents per egg now. And they say it's because of the tariffs. It's an added surcharge until the prices came down on eggs. Now prices on eggs are kind of down a little bit. I wonder if that's still the 50 cents
We had
surcharge.
an egg issue before tariffs.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that's how they did it. They showed the pricing.
Do you think I would be interested to know, do you think Walmart is being honest when they say this is all because of tariffs?
Oh, I think absolutely the price in the marketplace is going to go up for them to buy things. And it's what people that were weary of the tariffs were always saying, is that if you're charging the businesses, the shops, all that more for their products, it's always going to be passed down to the consumer. Should it be?
Already
I
went
think that
down
goes back to
30%.
Celeste's question.
But if we're looking directly at Walmart and we look at like their profit margin, this is where I think Walmart can step in and say, we can eat some of this cost for our customers. And if they're not doing that, then I think this is the opportunity for Americans to say, well, we will also take this opportunity to shop around.
Temu, whatever that's called, that online shopping, they have said that they will eat the cost of tariff prices right now and keep their prices at the same level. So there's one company that's doing it.
Lesson learned, buy local.
Speaking of lessons, we're about to get a lesson from one of
That's fine. We're going back to the teacher question. Hopefully Chris, who's calling us in at 713-440-8870, can help me with the funding. Chris is calling from the Heights. Chris, talk to us.
Well, I don't know specifically, except that if you think about textbooks and all of those things, they are per student because each student uses one. So, and there's an enormous amount of materials that go into a school that are per student because they come in directly into the hands of the students. But my comment was about teacher's salary.
Okay.
Now, I want you to imagine that the school districts, most people think the school districts each have a giant slush fund they call salary, personnel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, those monies are allotted out to the individual schools, and each principal has a personnel budget that he has to balance. And he is allotted so many teacher units. So let's say the school grows and he needs one more teacher unit, and he has to find it within that money he's allotted. What do you suppose he does?
Gets a bonus?
He's going to keep the other prices low, too. Right?
Well, right. But he might. But if he has to take it from the teacher personnel budget and he can't dip into the other budget, what do you suppose he's going to do?
Well, we don't have time for the game. What's he going to do?
He is going to find an expensive unit that he can replace with two cheaper units.
Mm-hmm.
That translates into experienced teachers.
All right. Thanks, Chris. We want to go to Laura, who I think has even more clarity on this issue down in League City. Laura, what you got?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes. So what you're talking about is the basic allotment, and that's what they've been talking about. The increase has dropped to $55 per student. And the basic allotment is actually an amount that covers everything for a district, including teacher salaries.
That's what I was thinking. So the $55, let me just hold you right here so you can help me understand. So the $55 is an allotment per student that goes into the school. The student is really there to increase the number of these $55, and then the school uses that money for the school experience across the board. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay.
And that includes teacher salaries.
That's what I thought.
Then what's with this bill that wants to take money from per student and give it directly to teachers?
Correct. Instead of increasing the basic allotment, they want to say this certain amount of money has to be spent on teacher salaries.
So they're putting little cuffs on how you can spend the money as opposed to putting it into the student experience. This money is only for teacher salaries, therefore limiting the balance in decision making more locally, correct?
Correct. Limiting the local decision making, and that money does not apply to all teachers, so it's not going to hit everybody. And there's no guarantee that they'll have that money in 2 years to continue to do this.
So are you for or against this, Laura?
Completely against it.
Okay. I get why.
Laura, thank you for your call at 713-440-8870. Celeste, I'm seeing some expressions on your face here.
Yes, because I'm looking at right now an article from the Texas Tribune that recently came out, and it says that looking at per student funding, I'm not sure where the $55 came from because it's much higher than that. And so it says, what does per student funding mean when you divide the total state budget for education using the most recent finalized data available from the state? $85.3 billion during the 22-23 school year by the number of public school students, about $5.5 million. The result is 15,503, an all-time high. So that is what they're saying. The number includes federal, state, and local revenue sources. It also factors in more than $900 in temporary federal funds received during COVID. That is now going away. We know that ESSER has mostly expired. So we'll get the breakdown exactly to clarify and make sure that we have the right factual information about per student funding in the state of Texas and what currently is being
and what I really
negotiated.
still am on, and I think she was getting closer, is what per student funding means and how it is applied. You were going to say something, Frank?
Well, a couple of texts are interesting. One problem with the state fixing the amount of money they give specifically for teacher salaries is it allows districts less flexibility in how to use their basic allotment.
And that's what Laura was saying.
And then one text, I'd like to hear an explanation of why the state legislature thinks it's okay to spend $10,000 of state tax dollars, $10,000 on student vouchers, but only $6,500 per student on public schools next year.
Good question.
These are all great questions, and we're going to keep those conversations coming. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Coming up on Hello Houston, Harris County Homeland Security and Emergency Management Coordinator Mark Sloan will join us to talk about what we can expect this hurricane season. And we continue to take your calls on today's topics, 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
I'm Anita Rao. More and more young people are anxious about our planet's future, and it's impacting their big life decisions.
The conversation today is if we know that devastating, potentially extinction-level events might be on the horizon, why would I bring a child into that?
A conversation about climate anxiety and the kid question. Join us next time on Embodied.
You can hear it Sunday night at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
This week on It's Been a Minute, why are middle-class musicians turning to OnlyFans to pay the bills?
Artists make so little from how much we actually listen to their music.
And on Wildcard, actor LeVar Burton reflects on a career that goes from Roots to Star Trek.
I've been able to portray the Black experience in America from our enslavement to the stars.
That's on Wildcard, and It's Been a Minute from NPR.
You can hear it Saturday at 6 p.m.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe, R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul, music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
As exports of Chinese goods to the United States go down, Chinese exports to neighboring countries are going up.
A lot of it is Chinese companies and firms who moved supply chains or factories from China to Southeast Asia to supply the U.S. market.
I'm Kai Rizdal. Supply chains are everything. Next time on Marketplace.
You can hear Marketplace is coming up tonight at 6:30 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from UpReach Learning, presenting a summer academic boot camp for grades K through 8th to prepare for next year's math, reading, and writing curriculum. Camps begin June 2nd. Registration info at upreachlearning.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, hurricane season will be here before you know it.
You claim it already is.
It really is. It might as well be. Starts officially on June 1st, lasts through November 30th. For us, it's really, I always say that after October 15th, we're good to go. But I think statistically, October 10th is the end of our hurricane season, between the 3rd and the 10th. But it's really important for the month of June, July, August, and September for us. That is for sure. And we're going to have a pair of conversations today about emergency preparedness during hurricane season. Our first is with Mark Sloan. Mark Sloan is the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Coordinator for Harris County. I had the pleasure of being at their emergency management luncheon just last week, and that's why I wanted to have you on. Mark, welcome to Hello Houston.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thanks, Frank.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So one of the main things that I got out of the luncheon from your conversation there is that the counties are going to be more coordinated than we've ever been to get the message out to people when it's necessary.
Yeah, it's a high priority for us is to make sure that everybody understands this isn't about a single jurisdiction. It's about the entire Gulf Coast, and we're all vulnerable to the effects of a hurricane or tropical storm and the inland impacts with wind and extra rain that might fall as far north as College Station. So yes, that coordination is something we work on very hard to make sure that Galveston, Brazoria, Fort Bend, Chambers, Waller, Walker, and counties to the north like Montgomery County understand what can happen in a tropical event.
So, Mark, just speaking of the Gulf Coast and all the areas, I mean, just last year from April to early July, a period of less than 3 months, the region faced impacts from multiple weather events. We had derecho in May, then we had Hurricane Beryl in July. There were also smaller windstorms that popped up around the area. How are you all handling this new norm of not just recurring weather events, but they're also occurring very closely together?
Well, the weather is something we're always monitoring.
Yeah.
And it brings us opportunities to coordinate our response plans. And last year was another opportunity with the flooding, the rains that were to the north, and then the flooding of the San Jacinto River, to the winds events, to the Hurricane Beryl. And one unique thing that most people don't understand is when you come into Houston, Harris County, we average a presidentially declared disaster every 9 months. We happen to have two within a 90-day period.
Well, the derecho.
Yes.
And then Beryl.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And those impacts, that's what we train for. That's what we put plans together for. That's what I tell my team. It's game day. That's what we're here to do and to help facilitate the coordination. We expect the population in our region to be ready for whatever Mother Nature brings our way, but we also want them to enjoy life and to go on about their business, but understand that we're vulnerable to all types of weather situations.
You know, there's always lessons learned. Believe me, 42 years of learning lessons.
Yeah.
Not to put you too much on the spot here, but what did you? I mean, it's hard to learn from the derecho except to get out of the way. But what have you all learned from Beryl? Because that was I would say it wasn't a badly forecast storm, but it certainly took a lot of the area by surprise.
Well, I think that over the years, my first storms go back to Tropical Storm Allison, and going into Ike and other storms that we've had. I think the technology and the capacity of the National Weather Service, the Hurricane Center, has gotten so much better that cone of uncertainty now is smaller.
Sure.
So people aren't looking at what we used to have in Hurricane Ike, which was the entire Gulf Coast was either under a hurricane watch or warning at one point in time, to watching Beryl and saying, it's not going to come here. And then when it does shift, it does change, it catches people off guard. I think that messaging is something we have to continue to keep people aware of, that weather situations will change dramatically very quickly, not to assume it's not going to hit us.
Well, and the Hurricane Center wants people to be aware that the cone is smaller, so the forecast might be better, but the effects, that's just where it's going to go inland. The cone does not mean you won't be affected by this storm. It just means this is where we expect it to go, and some of the worst effects will likely happen. But you can have tornado outbreak 500 miles away.
That can happen, and it, just like we watched with Hurricane Harvey, we were not the jurisdiction of landfall. We were the inland impacts of rain.
Correct.
And, Mark, you mentioned that you all are constantly monitoring the weather. How much of the OEM depend on the National Weather Service and NOAA now with major cuts?
Well, they're a crucial partner to us. So we're in constant communication with our partners at Galveston, at the Weather Service, with the National Hurricane Center outside of Miami, and talking to the experts who give us their input and what they can anticipate is going to impact our jurisdiction. With people taking the early retirement and losing the institutional knowledge We're losing our relationships with folks that we have known for many years.
Are you looking at me, Mark?
I can, yes, sir.
Frank feels shamed. Right
Let
now.
me jump in here and say, if you have questions for Mark about emergency management, about storms, or whatever you want to chat with him about, give us a call, 713-440-8870. A really broad and kind of ridiculous question, but that's what I'll ask. No such thing. Is, should we even be living here? Is this an area we should be in? It seems as though nature is trying to tell us, go away.
Well, yes, we should be living here.
Okay.
It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful part of the country. And as you know, many people are moving
I
here.
don't mean as individuals. I mean as humans.
Yeah.
Is this a place we should be? Or is nature just telling us these areas are going to be... We can't fight nature, can we?
Well, we can't fight nature. What we can is be prepared for the environment in which we choose to live.
Okay.
You can decide if you want to live in the north and deal with blizzards and road closures and the cold weather, or living in Hawaii near a volcano. I think
Suddenly things don't seem so bad here when you throw in the hurt.
So you have to, it's important to understand what is the weather environment, what are my risks and threats when you move to a jurisdiction, live in a jurisdiction, and enjoy the life with your family.
Well, and keep in mind, Ernie, that most of us live near a port city because with shipping, and that was the way that the world worked forever.
Right.
I mean, you had to have ports, and that's why we started living here. The mistake we're making is we not only continue to build square houses, we build them at the coast, and we build them out of wood. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they have a Caribbean storm. Those houses are made out of cement for the most part, or have good hip roofs. They're very well built, and we tend to go against code, don't you think, Mark?
Well, in certain part, again, the jurisdictions in Texas, the counties have limited building code capacity to put in place. The cities can put building codes in. But I think that the way we build creates our own vulnerabilities. Mm-hmm. In Houston, we build roadways to retain water in heavy rain events. It's part to get it into the systems, into the creeks, the bayous. And a lot of people don't know that if they haven't lived here for an extended period of time. But yeah, always looking to enhance your property. When we talk about making a plan, it includes, do I need roof clips to make sure my roof doesn't blow off? Do I have wind protection for my windows if I'm close to the coast?
Cutting those trees down.
Making sure you pick up the debris in your yard so it doesn't end up 3 blocks away.
Mark, what would you say, given your experience, what surprises you most after going through so many hurricane seasons and weather events, given your position?
I think the one thing that surprises me the most is there's always somebody that goes on television and said, I never thought this could happen to me. And
you're telling them, it could happen to you.
And because I think that people are wishful thinkers, that they hope it never happens, and they don't take the time to prepare themselves and their families and protect their property. So when they are impacted, I always thought it was going to turn and go to Beaumont. I always thought it was, I didn't think it could rain this much. Or, I think that that's always what surprises me. As much as we try to message preparedness and being aware of our risk and threats, we also have to understand that our population here is constantly changing, and there's an ongoing messaging that all of us need to be part of.
Yeah, I always we didn't expect this to happen. And we've been on 24 hours, 7 days of the week, telling you it was coming. Eric from Meyerland, I have a feeling what Eric wants to talk about. Meyerland's really been through it with Harvey and the Memorial Day floods and all of these floods, but he's on the phone for you, Mark. What do you have to ask, Eric?
Hey guys, appreciate taking my call. As you said, I'm in the Meyerland area. Really, just trying to understand, as you said, we've had such bad flooding over the last handful of years. Wanted to see if you think the changes that have been made over the last couple of years are going to have any difference when we get a big rain event like we've had in the past. Thanks a lot.
Well, I think that there's always mitigation projects that are ongoing throughout the entire flood control district. And I think that there's construction that is going on to help take more volume of rain. The problem is sometimes we get an excess volume of rain in a very short period of time, and flooding is something that this part of the country is very vulnerable to and susceptible to. And I know that the studies that go on and the projects that are ongoing don't happen overnight. It takes years, sometimes decades, to complete. But if you look back to the flooding events from the 40s and through the 60s into the 70s, I think the population has grown here, and the capacity to move water has increased dramatically.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Mark Sloan, the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Coordinator for Harris County. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870.
I guess my quick question here would be, looking at what we're heading into, how prepared do you feel you are right now for the season coming up? And what changes and things have you folks done to be prepared for this?
I think we're very well prepared from the local perspective in terms of my office, in terms of the partners. I think we're more prepared with new people that have come and witnessed and lived through Beryl last year. I don't think that the public really can comprehend the real impacts of a major hurricane impacting the Gulf Coast, especially in our area.
We discussed that a little bit at the luncheon last week. Let's discuss it more here on Hello Houston. Even I doubt a 5 would hit us, but a 4 certainly could. A Cat 4, 140 mile an hour winds. That's not out of the question. And what happens?
It's a bad day.
It's a very bad day.
Yeah, we have not had a very big wind event. The winds of last year when the storm came through took out the tree limbs, takes out power. Wind speeds in a hurricane increase every 100 feet above the ground level. And with the high rises, the apartments, the condos, we'll have more windows that are damaged and blown out just with the debris that's picked up off the coast. In Alicia, the windows at Texas A&M were damaged once it came ashore. So the infrastructure damage that could occur with a Cat 4, we're not talking days, not even weeks to restore power. We could be talking about extended into months with the infrastructure, the damage to potentially even our roadway systems.
When you talk about the electricity, though, I'm just curious, are we doing all that can be done to protect that? I understand some things are beyond our control. Some things, putting them up is better than putting them underground for some reasons and vice versa. Are we approaching this from your point of view the right way to preserve our electricity?
Well, I think that with ERCOT, CenterPoint being our primary supplier, because they're really a distribution network, are doing a lot of work in order to try to maintain that infrastructure, just like any other critical infrastructure. Because it's food supply also. It's about water.
Right.
And power is a key element to that, from traffic signals to be pump gas out of the station. So I think we're in a good place. I think we're vulnerable in a lot of ways due to high winds. Sometimes there's just things that are completely out of our control on the distribution side. But we have to. My role is to plan for the worst case scenario.
Is there a place, region, someone that's kind of tackled this better that you look to as they're figuring it out, or is it just?
We communicate on a regular basis with CenterPoint and our electrical.
I don't mean the provider, but I mean
like
a
Fort
region.
Myers or somewhere.
Is there
I don't
somebody
think so.
who is, or are we all in this same thing together at this point?
At this point, I think we're in it together because again, they're a private company and they're doing their best, and we want to make sure we keep pressure on them to make sure that the infrastructure has as much mitigation capacity completed before we're impacted with a wind event that causes a prolonged outage of power.
We want to invite you to the conversation, 713-440-8870. We have a call from Joseph from Tomball. Hi, Joseph. What is your question for Mark?
First of all, always, every day, waiting for this moment with you guys. You are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, but what I wanted to say is that, yes, maybe the institutions are ready for what is coming. But I'm worried about the construction industry because our government is pushing those people in fear, those who do the landscaping, remember the fence, those people who do the roofing. And most of those jobs is immigrant people who do the job. I don't know what our politicians are thinking, and they're living in their own bubble, but we have to think about the aftermath of the hurricane because it's going to be very, very bad.
Joseph,
that's fair. I mean, who's going to help
Thank
fix
you
it
for
up?
calling, Joseph.
Do you guys think about that kind of thing? Because there are a lot of the people, like when you were talking earlier about limbs and stuff, and you think, I had a note here about what do we do to prepare, and you've told me in the past, cut off those dead limbs, get your home ready for these kind of incidents. When we have a reduction in that workforce that may do repairs and all that work, is that something you guys factor in?
Availability of workforce is something that we're always concerned about. It's it's what we call the last deliverable mile on how do we actually get back to a new state of normal. And that's each individual, that's each organization, not just the big box stores, but it's also the smaller mom and pop shops, right? We all have to get back up on our feet. And where does that workforce come from? So I work for 4.8 million residents of Harris County, and I report to an elected official. And my role is to try to get the 4.8 million people ready, prepared, understand that small businesses have to have a continuity of operations plan. Paper or your small grocery store on the corner in a neighborhood.
Speaking of which, we have a question from Aaron from Clear Lake about evacuations. Aaron, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What's your question?
Well, so I live in Clear Lake. Been living here since 2017. I'm originally from Houston, and I'll try to keep this brief. But my question is, I was here when Rita hit. A lot of people that live here weren't here when Rita hit, and I saw the mess on the freeways. I know they have expanded 45 south of Beltway 8, but to be honest with you, as soon as you get to downtown, it's still 2 lanes. Even with contraflow, we would have trouble getting all these people out. We did the first time, and now we have millions more people who've moved to Houston, which is great. We want people moving here.
Right.
But there's no safe way to get everybody out.
Well, we've talked about evacuations at the luncheon. Tell us what we were discussing then.
I mean, that's an important message is that, remember, during Hurricane Rita was the first time the state of Texas actually had a law signed for mandatory or involuntary evacuations. Most local governments didn't understand it, and the population didn't. And we were coming off of a major event of Katrina, and people thought that a Category 4 or 5 coming our way would be the same thing that happened in New Orleans.
Yep, 3 weeks later.
And people were thinking we also lived in a bowl and we were going to flood. So too many people evacuated. So the evacuation process was changed and updated so that there were zip codes and color instead of just colors to know what area you lived in. There's a zip code zone map. And we are running from the water, hiding from the wind. So people should understand, are you part of the evacuation area? Based on the size of the storm and the water that's being pushed up the coast and inland, are the areas in which local government is going to coordinate from Galveston, Brazoria, Chambers County, Harris County, and others, is to coordinate that effort so we're moving from the coast inland first.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, Mark, we always say to military people, thank you for your service. Your Homeland Security, we thank you for your service. You guys are 24/7 when we need you, and we appreciate you being here on Hello Houston today.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah,
thank you
so much. Celeste?
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk about our current obsessions.
Hurricanes.
And we want to hear
Eurovision.
And we want to hear yours. Text or call 713-440-8870.
It can be hard to stay informed about what's happening in our city, our state, and across the country. That's why Houston Public Media makes it easier.
Everything you hear on News 88.7 is powered by you, not advertisers. 80% of our funding comes from our Houston community.
That's what makes public media different. It's community funded and always here for you when you need it.
Join that community now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
25 years after the premiere of the hugely popular film Final Destination, the franchise is back for a sixth installment. And the makers of the movie say it's going to be more gory and terrifying than ever.
The death that comes for you in Final Destination is really death by filmmaking.
I'm Elsa Chang. More from the team behind Final Destination Bloodlines on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Coming up this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Craig Cohen, the host of Houston Matters. Join me weekday mornings at 9 or at your leisure on your podcast feed for your daily guide to the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. From politics to the economy, energy to the environment, healthcare to education to transportation and beyond. If it matters to Houston, it matters to us. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts or live on the air weekdays at 9 a.m. right here on News 88.7.
Support comes from LaPorte CPAs and Business Advisors, an independent accounting and business advisory firm serving clients for more than 75 years. With 190 employees across offices in Houston, New Orleans, and other locations. More information at laporte.com.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, after a new episode of Party Politics at 8, Great Performances presents the comedy Yellowface at 8:30 about an Asian American playwright who protests the casting of Miss Saigon. Tonight on TV 8 or stream online.
And now back to Hello Houston. Call now, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org to get your comment in on today's topics. Here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hey, if you got your appetite whetted by our conversation with Mark Sloan, in the next hour, we're going to talk more about preparedness from the city of Houston's perspective. So don't go anywhere.
Yeah, big conference at the GRB. You'll be there anyway at the Discovery Green. But I bet a lot of people will go from that to there. Yeah.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, for sure.
From Hurricane Celeste over to...
Yes.
Anyway.
She's a whirlwind.
She is.
Yes, and now it's time to dive into our current obsessions. This is a rundown of things that are currently taking over all of our time. A current obsession is that TV show you got to run home to continue. It is that song that you keep playing on Spotify, that audiobook that makes you drive that extra mile in your car. You get the idea. Before we jump into Ernie and Frank and I's obsessions for the week, one of the top trending items right now on X is the official trailer for the new Superman film releasing in July. And of course, give us a call, 713-440-8870. Be sure to also, you can comment in YouTube, you can send us a text, you can call us. Yeah.
I'm excited about Mission Impossible, to be honest, but...
I've never seen any of the Mission
Lord.
Impossible.
Well, the Superman one, we've talked about this before. I think it looks a little goofy with the dog. And he whistles for the dog, and the dog drags him back to the Crystal Palace. I'm like, come on, what's going on?
Okay, get your Googles ready.
All right, my Google's ready.
Okay, Pangolin, P-A-N-G-O-L-I-N-S, P-A-N-G-O-L-I-N-S.
Pangolins. Cute. You know, last time it was elephants for you, Frank.
I know,
and then
nature.
before then it was the licorice cat.
Yes.
You're doing an animal trend in your... Oh, it looks like a dinosaur.
It looks like it's a mammal, and it is the most endangered mammal out there. The Chinese people in China use the pangolins for medicines and stuff. It looks like an armadillo. It's an anteater.
A scaly anteater.
It's a scaly anteater. It is precious, rolls up into a little ball to protect itself. And there is a Netflix,
of course,
documentary for about Kulu's journey, Pangolin, Kulu's journey. And you can find out all about Kulu's journey. I do not work for Netflix. I get no kickback on that. I'm just telling you.
What is it
it's
that
something
draws
the family
you in?
can do. The family can all watch it.
What is it about this that's made it your obsession?
You know what? It's because I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'd said elephant, you've heard of elephants. You just haven't heard of Sheldrick Trust, probably.
Right.
But
Cher rescues elephants.
But this Kulu's journey, you really need to watch it.
Cool.
Everybody's looking for a good Netflix.
Celeste, what's your obsession?
I am obsessed with the latest issue of Outsmart magazine.
Oh, my Lord. I
You're
wonder
in it.
why.
That's
You're in
my
it.
obsession right
I heard
now.
there are a
Ernie
couple of
Manouse
really pretty cover
and
boys
Frank
on it.
Billingsley bring fresh energy to Hello, Houston.
You know, you would think that they would have used one of my older shots.
No, that's
Y'all
the thing I
look
always hate. They
fabulous. You
wanted
look
to photograph
absolutely
us
fabulous.
today.
Yeah, I know.
We're like, oh.
Never met an airbrush program I didn't like.
But I
It
have to
is
tell you,
out
I
on
think,
stands. Be sure to pick it up.
yeah, they're free. We're all over the place. They're also online. You can go and look. What I think is so cool about it is they are us today, and they made us look good.
They actually did
and
make
they
us look
didn't
pretty good.
over-photo. The photographer was great. The cover is really nice, and thank you, Outsmart, for covering it. And so we're excited about that. Now, it's funny because your obsession leads into my obsession.
What's that? What the-
Because if you were to
could
pick
that
up,
possibly be?
if you were to pick up an issue of Outsmart, and after you read the story about Frank and I and the show, you could read an article about Eurovision that I wrote that's in there. Just
really?
because I'm
Wow.
so obsessed, I said when they were doing our feature, can I write something about Eurovision? So Eurovision. Quickly, the big song contest happening right now. It's 37 countries compete in Europe, Australia, Israel. And then they pick the number one song. They're going to do that tomorrow. And 26 songs will compete. There have been semifinals this week, and that's why I haven't been here, because I've had to watch them because I'm that obsessed.
I want to
Wow.
kind of interview you about this. I actually went and looked up Eurovision and looked at some stuff. I mean, the 1974 was
ABBA, Waterloo.
and they were so cute. And then Celine Dion and
Celine
88?
Dion.
88.
And so I was like, well, this Eurovision really has some talent.
Oh, it does.
So,
It does.
Okay,
in and,
so
in and around the craziness,
thing.
there is
I
some
want to
good
ask you
stuff.
this: who judges these people?
How
The
do
people.
we become the
people.
judges?
Well, there is a world vote now. There never
Really?
used to be. So, okay, every country votes televoting, but you can't vote for your own country. But then that ends up doing these groupings. So you get like the Nordic countries all vote together and the Slavic countries vote together and stuff like that. But it's supposed to break that. So they try and break that in the semifinals.
So you call in like American
you
Idol?
call
It's
in.
like American Idol. You know, my parents lived in Scotland when I was in college for about 3 or 4 years, and Eurovision, I would watch it, and I didn't even realize what a big deal it
Almost
was.
200 million people
got
will
home.
watch on Saturday across the globe. And in America, about 20. And they're all of us over at the Montrose Country
Okay.
Club, we're going to get together and watch
I
it
do want to
together.
ask about it. So if you're a singer, how do you get to this level of Eurovision?
Each country selects their own entry.
Well, okay,
It
well, how
can
do you
either
get
be
them to
done-
look at you?
Well, you can either be done internally or by their own little American Idol kind of show. What, Celeste? You got excited.
Because one of my obsessions that I wrote down, we just actually got a text, and it's the same one from Chad MC. I am watching the YouTube stream of the Big Bear Bald Eagles eaglets. They're going to soon fly out for the first time.
Okay, back to
Same, Chad.
Eurovision.
Same.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you.
Same, Chad.
So, like for Australia,
Okay.
internally, Australian broadcasting, I have to be a member of the European Broadcasting
Sorry, you already
Union.
lost me.
I know. But anyway, Australia, well, you should love Australia. You lived and worked there.
I actually went to dinner with a group of Australians or American women that lived in Australia and now live
They
here.
picked a street busker named Gojo to represent their country. And he was in the semifinal with his song, Milkshake Man.
He looked like Benson Boone.
He does, but he didn't make it through.
He didn't. Okay, so who? Okay, so how many? 26 people.
26 will compete on
Singers?
Saturday.
And will there be a first, second, third, or just
Nope,
first?
it's just the winner.
Just the winner.
And it's going to be Sweden.
And
Take my
okay.
word for it.
All right,
They
so
got the best
Tell us
performing
about the
slot.
nuts and bolts tomorrow at the Montrose Country Club.
Montrose Country Club, come around 1 o'clock. Show starts broadcasting at 2 o'clock. It's open and free to the public. Of course, if you buy anything to eat or drink, you
That's
have
the
to pay
old
for it
F
yourself,
bar on
but-
2M, right?
Yep. And
okay,
we're going to
but
be
now
there.
they put a pool in, and it's like
You don't get to go to the pool. That's something else.
But it's a really nice place. Okay, so you're going to MC this.
I'm going to MC it. I'm going to watch it. You can come watch it with me. Basically,
But it's
a
very
very casual.
fun.
one.
It's very fun.
If you've never experienced, you can also watch it on Paramount Plus if you don't want to go out.
Are you buying drinks for everyone?
Absolutely not.
I want to hear more of you all's obsession. 713-440-8870.
We'll circle back to your
Let's
obsessions.
circle back. My other one, spring cleaning. I
Yeah,
do this
me
every year.
too.
I become manic.
The
And I've been-
idea
I've
of it,
been-
I'm obsessed with. The actual practice of it, not so
See,
much.
this is the thing. Nobody tells you when you have children that they grow out of their clothes, and then you have to go and be like, oh, you are now a fit in a 5, and then I have to take all that other clothes.
Well, I've been reading about the KonMari method, KONMARI.
Yes.
If it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it.
That's right.
Ernie, you're out.
That seems so unfair. Took 2 days off this week, and they're ready to send me packing. If you don't want me to go anywhere, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll discuss the Disaster Readiness and Resilience Clinic and Expo with Ruth Tovar from the City of Houston Office of Emergency Management. And we have some last-minute plans for the weekend. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Lockton, dedicated to helping navigate the complexities of employee benefits and understand pros and cons of health plan options to cover weight loss drugs. More on the News and Insights page at Lockton.com.
Mostly sunny later today as the clouds burn off. We'll get up to about 94. It's 85, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we continue diving into the big topics of the day, such as Texas lawmakers holding their first hearing in a decade on legislation that would allow people to register to vote online. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Díaz Schurman. How ready are we for the upcoming hurricane season? We will talk with the City of Houston Office of Emergency Management about the Disaster Readiness and Resilience Clinic and Expo, taking place tomorrow at the George R. Brown Convention Center.
And I'm Ernie Manouse. Plus, the Museum of Fine Arts Houston's film curator, Marian Luntz, will be joining us live from the Cannes Film Festival in France to talk about their upcoming events.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 713-440-8870, or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to hellohouston.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump's domestic priorities, wrapped up in what he has called a big, beautiful bill, are stuck in the GOP-led House. Today, it failed to make it out of the Budget Committee, dampening supporters' hopes of getting the bill to the Senate by Memorial Day. President Trump's returning home with defense and economic agreements secured this week during his stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Doug Silliman is president of the Arab Gulf States Institute, a nonprofit think tank in Washington, D.C., weighing in on the significance of Trump's visit.
I think the real purpose of the trip was to show Americans that President Trump is able to deliver economically, particularly in light of all of the uncertainty that his tariff policy and other trade policies have created. And he tried to do this in the Gulf by getting large pledges for investment from the Gulf in the United States.
The Middle East was Trump's first major international trip of his second term. Russian and Ukrainian officials met today in Istanbul for their first direct peace talks in more than 3 years. The meeting, hosted by Turkey, took place a day later than planned and amid lowered expectations. Gökçe Sarakcıoğlu reports.
Ukraine has held firm on key demands, including full Russian withdrawal, while the Kremlin insists on keeping occupied territory. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, speaking later at a European summit in Albania, says a full, unconditional and honest ceasefire is urgently needed. But he criticized Russia for sending a lower-level delegation instead of President Vladimir Putin, saying it shows Moscow isn't serious about ending the war. For NPR News, I'm Gökçe Sarakcıoğlu in Istanbul.
There's no public transit train service in New Jersey today. The rail agency and a key labor union have failed to reach a new contract. Bruce Conviser reports the rail workers are now on strike.
More than 450 train engineers walked off the job, demanding a larger pay increase. The train engineers earn an average gross salary of $135,000 per year, according to New Jersey Transit, but union officials dispute that figure. Exactly how large of a pay increase the engineers want is unclear, but union leaders say that engineers at other regional rail services get at least $10 more per hour. Those rail companies, as well as New Jersey Transit bus service, are not affected by the strike. The two sides actually shook hands on a deal back in March, but the union membership voted it down overwhelmingly in April. New Jersey Transit officials are urging its customers to work from home if at all possible. For NPR News, I'm Bruce Confiser in New York.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up more than 200 points, or roughly 0.5%, at 42,545. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath visited Houston earlier this week. Houston ISD's second year under state intervention is about to wrap up. Morath toured one of the district's top-performing arts schools alongside Superintendent Mike Miles. News 88.7's Colleen de Guzman reports.
Students with Kinder High School for the Performing and Visual Arts Orchestra team welcomed Morath on his tour of Houston campuses. He also visited Hillard Elementary School and Forest Brook Middle School, campuses part of the state-appointed superintendent's new education system. Morath gave HISD a glowing review of its second year under the state takeover.
The amount of improvement in academic potential and lifetime potential for kids is pretty spectacular.
Morath says he's actively considering whether the state's takeover will continue next year, but that would require Wheatley High School, the campus that caused the state to intervene, to receive at least a C rating 2 consecutive years from TEA. I'm Colleen de Guzman, News 88.7.
A developer known for Post Houston could soon build new neighborhoods in Sugar Land. City Council approved a plan for the Lake Point Green development this week. The city has been looking to redevelop areas like the Imperial Char House and Lake Point. This is Devin Rodriguez, the city's Director of Redevelopment, speaking at City Council.
Redevelopment has been the city's top priority, specifically Imperial and Lake Point.
The property includes more than 1 million square feet. The heat we've experienced this week is not letting up anytime soon. A high of 94 today, and we're going to be in the low to mid-90s through at least next week. Chances are the 80-degree days are either done for now or close to being done until the fall. No rain in the forecast either. It's currently 85 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
You know, as you watch us over on YouTube and chat in the columns, the same question I'm going to ask these folks here. Are we in the weekend? Do you feel noon on a Friday, we're already in the weekend, or do you got to get to the end of the
That's a good question.
Because
I
I'm
usually feel it
weekendish
when I wake up on Friday.
Agreed. I approach it with just a little bit of a lightness, and I've been
Yeah.
trying to approach Mondays the same way.
Well, has it worked?
Not really.
I have a really bad habit of waking up Monday, and the first thought I have is, I just need to make it to Friday. I wake up every week that way, which should tell you something.
Well, speaking of which, while y'all are on the cover of Outsmart, I was at the urgent care.
You were what?
At the urgent care yesterday.
The queen of segues today.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
How did that
By the
sound?
way, always go to an urgent care. Don't go to one of those stand-ups that has the word emergency in it, because you will be charged emergency room prices.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Spencer from KPRC did a long story on that and said, you know, if you if you can help it, go to an urgent care, not an emergency care.
Well, I have a very funny story about
Let's hear
that
it.
specific thing. This
Well,
is not
first of
the
all, for
original
people who are worried, what happened? Why were you in this?
Yesterday, on our way to swim, Philip, my 4-year-old, was trying to be funny, and he unbuckled. We were pulling into the YMCA. He unbuckled his car seat, tried to jump out. His feet got stuck to the chair. He goes straight. I mean, he just fell flat on my car floorboard, hit the little railing where you scoot your seat up and back. And 2 staples later, an urgent care visit till 10 p.m. at night. His head is stapled.
How's
Does
he
he
doing?
think that's funny?
No, it hurt.
It hurt. Good.
And
How's
I
he
had
doing?
been he's doing much better. Thank you for asking. But I had been telling him, it was that one of those real mom moments where I kept saying, y'all need to stop, y'all need to stop, y'all need to sit down, y'all need to be careful. And it happened.
Well, that's how we all learned respect for our parents.
That is a good point.
Right.
Yes. No,
That
I
is a
feel
good
your
point.
pain for the
No,
number
it
of
is.
times I end up in the emergency rooms or urgent care with my mom now. We go,
Yes.
we know where to go and where to get
Yeah.
it. We know the
And you know
ones
where-
that are faster and don't have the long waits. There's
Yes.
one, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want anyone else going there. There's never anyone there. My mom gets seen immediately.
Yes, I love our urgent care near us. But
Well, I'm hoping we're not going to be making a visit to urgent care this
No.
weekend because it's Eurovision and I was talking about in our obsessions. And we actually have a call on the line from Gary and Katie. I'm so excited. Gary, what's on your mind?
Hey, Ernie. I know you probably have. You're probably aware of most of the Eurovision trivia, but I think I might have something you weren't aware of.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Let's see how good I am.
So back in the 90s, I was a keyboard player with an artist in Ireland called Linda Martin, and she won for Ireland in '93, I believe it was, in Sweden. And obviously, when you win the Eurovision, you get to host it the next year.
Right.
Ireland got to host it in '94, and they needed an interval act for the '94 show in Dublin. And they created a little 8-minute song and dance routine, which they called Riverdance.
Right.
And it was so phenomenally successful in '94 and to such great acclaim. That's where the production team got back together to, with Michael Flatley to put together the whole touring extravaganza that has been running ever since.
Yeah, she
Gary?
won in '92.
Yeah.
Linda Martin won in 1992 for the song Why Me, which is something we say here a lot.
Yeah.
Why me? Why me?
But Gary, you bring up a good point. I've been talking a lot of trivia about Eurovision right now, and I had forgotten to mention Riverdance, which has such a stronghold here in PBS and in our public broadcasting because of Michael Flatley and Riverdance. And it was a creature born out of Eurovision because all the songs perform, and then they need time to do all the voting. So they have the interval acts, which are always exciting. Gary, quickly, do you think Celine Dion is going to be an interval act tomorrow? Because she won for Switzerland.
I've been in Houston now for 12 years. I'm just completely out of touch with the show. The only time I get to really reflect on it is when I hear you on the radio each year mentioning it. And,
Well,
so
Gary,
I always enjoy to hear about it, but unfortunately, Ireland never makes the cut these days.
Oh my God, Like a Party didn't make it this year either. The song about the Russian space dog that went up in space in the 50s and then just drifted away. That was Ireland's song this year. I loved it. Didn't make it through the semifinal. Quickly, Gary, I'll tell you this. Tomorrow, come to the Montrose Country Club on 2M here in the city and join us as we watch Eurovision. It would be an honor to have someone who's actually performed there with us.
wow. Yeah, and Gary, you just made Ernie's year.
I know, I'm just sitting here beaming. According to our producer, he says I'm supposed to keep the obsessions coming. We'll try and share them throughout the show. So
Give us a call, 713-440-887. We did get another obsession. Walt from Baylor says the book Rules of Civility by Amar Tolls.
Yes, who I just interviewed on stage for this Performing Arts Houston. Wonderful book. It was his first novel. So there you go.
Excellent. So moving on into our topics.
I guess I was supposed to say that. So at the beginning of every hour, we take a look at that. Celeste, start us off.
Celeste, go.
Texas lawmakers held their first hearing in a decade on legislation that would allow people to register to vote online. Yesterday, John Busey, an Austin Democrat, proposed House Bill 311 that would direct the Texas Secretary of State's office to work with the Texas Department of Public Safety and the state's Department of Information Resources to implement online voter registration. Busey acknowledged the bill's slim chances, but told VoteBeat that the hearing was a significant step toward implementing online voter registration in Texas. Texas, which has more than 18 million registered voters, is one of the only 8 states without online voter registration. Are you in favor or against online voter registration right here in Texas? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I think this is brilliant and wonderful, and we've waited too long for it. A lot of other states, a lot of other places, you can register to vote online. Here, the problem is you can request to register online and get what you need to register, but it's not a seamless process. And it should be, because I'm big pro, everyone should be able to vote that's legal and right.
Right. VoteTexas.gov, if you go to register, you can do a lot online.
Right.
And you have to give your name and address, and either your Texas driver's license number or your social if you don't have that. So you could do a lot toward it. You can actually see if you're registered. Just put in your date of birth and your TDL, and it'll tell you if you're registered. So there is a lot you can do online. But like Ernie says, that final step of them saying, okay, you're registered, go to this place to vote, isn't there yet.
It's
and you're
complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
How can you get that far and then say, okay, we'll send you something to fill out and sign and send back?
And it puts resistance and challenges for people who may not have a permanent address, who may be in movement between locations and may miss their mail, people who are on a rush to hit deadlines. It would just be so much better, I think. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm completely in favor. I mean, why make it hard for people to vote?
I could give you a whole list why.
Reasons. I mean, voter turnout, we already know, is already low on average. Anything to help folks get registered is a win. I think it's unfortunate that our state is trying to make it more difficult. I mean, the president has staffers who are making war plans and sending text, but yet we're making it hard for people to register.
That's a great point.
That's an interesting connection. I like that.
I mean, the world has changed.
Okay, do you think, Celeste,
Texas needs to get with it.
Do you think that we should be able to vote online?
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
What do you think about that? Why not?
I do think that we should go in, or I do believe in the mail-in process. But, that's actually a good question. I haven't thought about it. I said no originally, but I need to take a moment to
you worry about a foreign hacker getting in and messing up the vote or trying to influence it in some way. But we do a lot of voting online already, just not for elected officials.
I think it should be a phone-in, like at Eurovision.
Like American Idol.
Number. You can have up to 20 for 99 cents a piece, and we'd solve the budget
problems. Voting would just go up if we did it like American Idol. We watch them all
the candidates are all
on stage, and they bring their policy forward, and then we see it going.
Well, they always say that that weather is a big player in elections because you have to actually get out in it. And if you have any challenges with transportation, it becomes you just stay at home. So that kind of online voting, I think there's an argument to make for it. But I think like DNA 30 years ago, people aren't comfortable with it.
Right.
Like now DNA is a big player in trials and actually exonerating people and getting people off. But 30 years ago, when it first came out during the OJ trial, everyone was like, wait a minute, what is this DNA you're talking about?
It's not 100% accurate. It's 99.99999%.
You are the baby's
accurate.
father.
So maybe. Thank you, Montel.
Montel
Billingsley is here.
That was
Maury Povich.
Get your talk show host.
Oh my
right.
gosh. Maury Povich.
Yeah, you're right. Maury got a bigger attention.
And then
so old.
Okay, so
Sally Jesse Raphael did it too.
This next story has me a little concerned.
Okay, speaking about technology and how they're using technology, and also back to the phone number 713-440-8870. Let us know what you think about voting think registering online, all of that. But now, do you play the lottery?
I do.
Do you think
when
your
it's
chances?
big, I don't play it every week. Like
when
it first came out, I did. But now, if it's big money, it's got to be at least $1 billion, and I'll get into the 7-Eleven.
Then it's worth Frank going out. Okay, the Texas State
we're having
Senate
too much fun on a Friday.
Unanimously, I can't read today, approved a bill that would abolish the Texas Lottery Commission, but fear not. It would then move the state's game to a different agency and add several new restrictions on how lottery tickets can be purchased. Why, you might ask? This is a fascinating story, and I had thought about this a lot in the past, and I never knew it had actually happened. Senate Bill 3070 would move the Texas Lottery and state operations to the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation and create a new criminal offense for people who buy lottery tickets online in bulk. What are we talking about here? Well, what happened was, if you think about it, when the pot is large enough, like a Frank size pot.
Yeah, right. $1 billion.
There are only so many combinations of numbers, depending on how many numbers are in your lottery. It is conceivable you could buy all of the numbers and still make a profit. Well, you would think, how could that happen? It did happen. It happened in April of 2023. A single group printed 99% of the 26 million possible ticket combinations in a 72-hour period for a jackpot of $95 million. So if you've got $26 million to invest, you could make $60 million. Well, they did.
Well, after taxes, it wouldn't be 95,
Well,
but I
still.
get your point. And it's either you can't buy lottery tickets online or in bulk.
They cheated the system.
Right, they did. And the problem was
Well, did they
that
cheat
they're
the
seeing-
system, or
they
played,
worked the system?
Played the system.
They
yeah.
didn't work
But
the
they
system.
cheated.
They did cheated the system because they were able to get machines and they
Yep.
were able to put them with programs to make them print. They did pay for every ticket, but they had people in high places
But they
that allowed
rigged
it
it.
to happen so that they could win it. And I do believe there were some paybacks. But anyway, they're going to put an end to that. So I hope that that happens, because when you play the lottery, you want to believe you have a chance to win it.
Well, this part's interesting. If you buy more than 100 tickets in a single purchase, it could be a Class B misdemeanor.
Under SB 37, and the Texas Lottery provides $2 billion in public school funding and millions of dollars to veterans programs yearly. What do you think should happen to the Texas Lottery? Should it be going away? Does it raise money for Texas? But there are a lot of problems. Give us a call, 713.
We'll do it in unison. No, go.
440-8870. Keep it. Yes, these people.
I think the important thing you said there was to realize where the profits go to. They go to very important things. Should we have gambling, state-sanctioned gambling? That's another issue,
Well, I think
but we have.
Yes,
I think
we
it's
should.
funny that it's gambling, and I like to buy a little ticket every once in a while, and I go in and
Not
I
a full-size
purchase.
one, just
I
a
buy
little
a little
ticket?
ticket. I buy like 5 numbers. I go in, and then I pray. I say, Lord, please.
Do you play
let
the
this
same
be
5
winning
numbers every
ticket."
time?
No.
Do you get nervous when you don't play the same numbers? Like if it's your birthdays or whatever, and you're like, oh, I should have played my numbers.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, I do. I always go back and be like, oh, I was going to pick 29.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you think? Should there be these laws to restrict them? Yeah, but it really bugs me. But I had thought about that plan before, but I just never thought far enough about how you could buy up all the numbers.
Yeah, and people will always find ways to gamble and
I
try
want
to
to say
get
that they did this in
rich.
Virginia.
Yes, there were other cases where they had done this.
But they kind of did it the right way. I mean, they didn't have these machines that were all tanked up. They literally went through and had people buy all these tickets, and they
I
won.
want to know what's going to happen to this group of people.
Yeah, well, that's already been taken care of. But the problem here was, what do we do about laws? I just want to remind everyone that we are talking about a couple different topics. We had Pam on the line. She had a comment about online voting, but she didn't stick with us.
Pam,
so
call us
Pam,
back.
call us back.
Maybe she's going to watch us online.
Hi, Pam. We're on YouTube. Okay, what's next, Frank?
Well, this is kind of interesting. This is the former director of the FBI, James Comey, on Thursday took down an Instagram post of seashells which spelled out the numbers 8647 after Republicans claimed that it was a threat against President Donald Trump. The number 86 can often refer to getting rid of something or tossing it out, like you 86 it. I've heard that. And of course, Donald Trump is the 47th president. So 8647 says, from the former director of the FBI, could be interpreted by some people to say, let's get rid of, in a less than democratic way, the president. So, but Justice James Comey casually calling out for my dad to be murdered. This is who the Dem media worships, demented Donald Trump Jr. posted on social media. So Comey emerged as a Trump critic after the president fired him early in his first term. He denied that the picture was a call for violence. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem wrote in a social media post Thursday evening that DHS and the Secret Service are investigating this alleged threat made against Trump by Comey. So, was it a threat? Was it just a political message? Was it just sort of casual, 713-440-8870.
Or
I'd
maybe
love to hear
this-
people's thoughts on this.
Maybe the seashells just ended up in that line.
Right.
Yeah.
3 words: freedom of speech. And I think that if there is any party calling out another party for blasphemous or rhetoric or words that can be problematic, it should not be the Republican Party.
Well,
Just gonna put that out there. But now I do think that it's one of those things where 2 wrongs don't make a right.
right. Agreed.
But if you're in a restaurant and someone says 86 the bacon, I don't mean to kill the bacon. I mean just to take it away.
Get rid of it.
86ing something.
But you also have to remember your position.
Right.
And when you were
Yes.
the former director of the FBI, people still have a lot of respect for that. And you were in a position to actually kill people when you're the director of the FBI.
I
think more violent language has been used, more aggressive language has been used that would imply this, which has been defended by the same party that's now outraged by the 86. But I do think Comey did the right thing, take it down.
Yes.
I should never have posted it in the first place. To go back to what you're saying, you should think about, we've talked about this on the show, we think about before we post things, how they can be interpreted, how they can be misinterpreted. You've got to be an editor of what you do these days. There's too many people looking at everything and too many people that can be triggered by things.
Well, especially if the president fired you from your job, because that almost gets to that edge of
You're in the crosshairs.
I guess
former
when you talk
employee.
about being in a certain position, I think of January 6th, and a lot of the questioning around that came from did the president encourage some of the things that were happening during January 6th? And so, yes, I think that. Again, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Well, or by not discouraging it, did he encourage it?
Okay, I'm going to go long for a second here because there's just some fun things I just need to make sure we're all aware of. Today is National Classic Movie Day. If it were a rainy
What's
day,
your
you'd go
favorite
home.
classic movie?
It's Sunset Boulevard.
It's not a bad movie. I
Not
would
a
go with
bad
The Graduate, but I'm not sure it's classic. Is it classic?
That is a classic.
It is classic to Celeste.
That's
Díaz.
absolutely
To
classic.
us, we're like, isn't that still playing in the theaters,
Yes,
Frank?
yes. I'm ready for my close-up.
But
It's
no.
also National Barbecue Day.
Don't you want to hear my classic?
What's your classic?
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh, wow. Audrey
yeah.
Hepburn. Nice.
I'm
I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen
That's my line, Frank.
Yeah, she's usually. Have you seen Sunset Boulevard?
No.
You owe it to yourself. Okay, and it's National Mimosa Day. I'm going to guess you've had a mimosa.
I've had a mimosa or two.
Speaking of movies, really quickly, I want to say that it's back again. It is now going to be HBO Max. It was HBO. It was HBO Go. It was HBO Now. It was HBO Max. Then it was just Max. They're going back to HBO Max.
Those chickens always come home to roost.
And if you want to catch a movie this year, you should probably go on a Wednesday during the summer to an AMC theater because they're slashing every Wednesday during the summer their ticket prices by 50%.
Please do the Magna Carta
I'm
bit.
excited.
And talking about Celeste and her spring cleaning, be careful what you throw away. There was a copy of the Magna Carta somebody had at Harvard University that was purchased for, I do believe, I saw $17 or something like that.
It was the equivalent of $500 back in 1946. I'll say that.
All right. Turns out
it's like 26
it was
bucks.
actually the Magna Carta,
Yes.
a real deal dating back to the 1300s, and it's worth millions.
And it's just precious that the Magna Carta inspired much of the Constitution, and it was found at Harvard, which is having its constitutional rights.
So I'm being told to wrap this up. So my final thing is,
Okay.
Celeste, be cautious when you're throwing things out.
Got it.
Don't throw away.
Where's
an
my
important
Magna
document.
Carta?
I'm going to be throwing out a lot of toys. Coming up on Hello Houston, we will talk with the Public Information Officer at City of Houston's Office of Emergency Management about the Disaster Readiness and Resilience Clinic and Expo, which is taking place tomorrow at the George R. Brown Convention Center. And we continue to take your calls on today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Imagine two friends getting together.
So what's happening in Congress?
Well, this is something that is going to be tough to defend in an election year. And that's assuming it even passes, which it might not.
Imagine you could listen in.
And then what about the Senate? The bills are just rocketing out of the chamber.
Have they gone too far? The House might say, well, wait a minute.
Well, you can. Party Politics with Brandon Rottinghouse and Geronimo Cortina. Fridays at 7:30 p.m. on News 88.7, at 8 on TV 8, and on your favorite podcast platforms.
Next time on Climate One, grassroots leaders inspire and remind us that we each have the power to change our world.
You have to become your own expert because no one is coming to save you.
We don't have a choice, right? We don't have a choice but to stay optimistic that we are working towards something bigger than all of us.
Honoring environmental heroes on the next Climate One.
You can hear it Sunday morning at 6.
I'm Maria Hinojosa. Next time on Latino USA, a young Latina mom's journey of healing from gun violence and postpartum depression in a country where there's little support for either.
I feel like she really saved me in so many different ways that I would have never thought.
And how a faja can save your life. That's next time on Latino USA.
Listen Sunday night at 7 o'clock on News 88.7.
Support comes from LaPorte CPAs and Business Advisors, an independent accounting and business advisory firm serving clients for more than 75 years. With 190 employees across offices in Houston, New Orleans, and other locations. More information at laporte.com.
Support comes from the Near Northwest Management District with new commercial construction, more than 350 acres of green space, parks, and sports complex. More information at nnmd.org. At the intersection of innovation.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
In our first hour, we spoke with Mark Sloan, Homeland Security and Emergency Management Coordinator for Harris County, about how the county prepares for emergencies ahead of hurricane season. Now, in this hour, we'll be talking about how the city is preparing for hurricane season, and to discuss, we welcome Ruth Tovar. She is a Public Information Officer at the City of Houston Office of Emergency Management, here to talk about not just how we prepare, but also the Disaster Readiness and Resilience Clinic and Expo, which is taking place this Saturday at the George R. Brown Convention Center. Ruth, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hi, Ruth. How are you?
I'm great. How are y'all doing?
So are you ready? Are you prepared?
Yes, as prepared as we can be.
So what can people expect going to this expo, and why do you think people should go when they're looking at their weekend plans?
Yeah, so this is the largest expo that we have for preparedness in the city of Houston. So we highly recommend people to go. It's going to have a lot of great resources.
It's not just for experts, it's for the general public, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's built for the public, for families. We have an entire kids zone. And this is really made for residents to really know how to prepare. And so this year we have a special clinic. The word clinic can be misleading. It's not a medical clinic.
No one's getting shots.
Yeah. No, the reason it's called a clinic is because people can sign up for appointment slots and they can sit down with numerous experts. There's going to be about 3 people that are on the City of Houston OEM team, OEM Office of Emergency Management. And so you can sit down with them and talk through your concerns, and they can help you build a personalized preparedness plan.
What are some of the concerns that people come to you all with when they sit down with an expert?
A lot of people, especially in that clinic, it was really built for the DAFN community, the disability and functional needs community. And so we're all vulnerable, right, to storms. But specifically our DAFN community, those with low vision, hard of hearing, they have to prepare differently. And so we have a lot of resources for them.
Is 211 still a viable number if you need assistance in evacuation?
Yes. So you can dial 211 to register for STEER, which is the State of Texas Emergency Assistance Registry. And that's specifically also built for the DAFN community and those elderly people who might need help moving around and mobility. And we also use 311 as well.
And 211, you have to register every year.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
And then the money that the state has is allotted by how many people register. So it's really important for people to register.
Yes, and so that is a huge message that we're trying to get out. If you register a family member for STEER, you have to remember, put that date in your calendar. Please register every single year. Because
who are you registering and what for exactly?
And so this is for STEER. And so that's specifically, and I'll get into this in a bit. This is different from Alert Houston. Alert Houston are our regular alerts. Anybody can sign up for Alert Houston. We now have a text-based one. You can text Alert Houston to 888-777 and you'll be automatically registered. We promise we won't bombard you with unnecessary alerts. It'll be strictly for emergencies and for need to know.
Well, people are turning off their alerts because there's so many amber and silver alerts, and you're in the middle of a high school graduation, and you disable them, you don't put them back on. So, what do you do about that? Getting that word out?
Yeah, and so that's something that we want to avoid too. We don't want to overwhelm people with unnecessary alerts. And especially for Alert Houston, we have kind of scaled back, and we're reserving that for emergencies only. And so now people can choose to get text, emails, calls. You can choose what to get, what not to get. And so you can really tailor it to what you prefer.
Take me back to the 211, though. You were getting to who's registering there and why.
Yes, and so STEER is different from Alert Houston. That's specifically for the vulnerable population. And so Alert Houston is just regular alerts that you can receive. STEER, it'll be for basically a wellness check from a first responder. If you register someone and they get a call, no answer, text, no answer, and an email, and we get no response, we will send a first responder to check on them. It's not always guaranteed. Of course, it depends on the storm. Sometimes floods will make areas inaccessible. Our first responders are very spread thin, and so we highly encourage people, please reserve this only for our vulnerable population.
And is it just to get a wellness check, or is it to help them evacuate, help them to do things if they need it, or is that something different?
Correct, yeah. They'll check on them, see what they need. If they need to move them, they'll move them, and so they'll help them out.
Well, we got to have the funds to move people, so that's why it's so important to register.
You're listening to Hello Houston, and we are speaking with Ruth Tovar with the City of Houston Office of Emergency Management. You can call in at 713-440-8870 and ask Ruth your questions at this time. So, Ruth, if people are listening and we're going into the hurricane season, what are some of the main things that you want to make sure Houstonians know in this moment going into this season?
So, there's so many things. So, one, of course, register for alerts, stay in the know, stay informed, follow trusted sources on social media. The Houston Office of Emergency Management, please follow us. We continuously update, especially during emergencies. It's important, very, very important for us to contain rumors, and during emergencies, people will get their information from everywhere. And so it's super important to get them from the right source, get them from the city, from the county, from the National Weather Service. That's what we do. That's what we're dedicated to.
So know your evacuation routes and know what you need before a storm. And as we discussed just the other day, you and I, know what you're going to have after a storm. Everyone talks about, you have to have water and medicines and all of that, phone chargers, solar phone chargers and things like that. But after the storm, if you don't have a rake, how are you going to sweep everything up, or a push broom, or huge garbage bags, or Clorox
I
and
went
sponges?
and checked, and I do have the large trash bags. We talked about that.
Do you have a rake?
I do.
Do you have a rake yet?
I have the rake. But Ruth, we had Mark Sloan, the Harris County Homeland Security and Emergency Management Coordinator, in here. And I'm curious, how does the county and the city work together to make sure that there's a cohesive plan in place going into this season?
Yeah, and so we're constantly collaborating. We're in talks. I know exactly who Sloan is. I used to work for him, and so we all know each other. We've known each other for years, and so that relationship to us is very important. And so we're in constant communication, especially during emergencies.
We were talking just a second ago, Frank was mentioning the things you should have, and one that always pops into my mind is when they talk about medications. And I know even if I'm not on the right date, I can't get a refill of my medication. How are you supposed to go about saying, I want to have a reserve of these medications that we need? Is there any way your office can help with that? How do we arrange that?
Yeah, so our office, we just try to connect people to the right resources, and of course making sure that they're prepared before a storm. And so some of our messaging to that population, we always tell them, please make a plan with your doctor ahead of time. Don't wait until the last minute. Don't wait until you've run out of medication. Or for those that need specific medical equipment, make sure that you have a backup generator, you have somewhere to charge that medical equipment. That's super, super important.
Yeah, especially just a refrigerator, because a lot of medications you have to keep cold.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Heart medications in particular.
And I'm sure everyone knows this, but we'll say it a million more times during the season. Generators, do not run them in your garage or in your house. Outdoors, need to be outdoors.
That's super, super important. I know every disaster that we've had, we get a lot of calls for carbon monoxide poisoning, and so without fail, that's an issue that we have for every storm.
I did get a call I'll share with you many years ago when I was at Channel 2. We told people, get your supplies ready, get your supply kit ready. And this guy called and he said, well, I'm on Social Security, and I spent $40 or $50 on this supply kit, and we never had a storm. And now my $40 or $50 is gone, and what am I going to do with all of these Band-Aids or whatever it was? Are there resources for people where they can get free hurricane supplies or discounted that you know of?
Well, we just had our tax-free weekend. We had it about 2 weekends ago, and that's specifically for emergency supplies. And that's why we have it, is because we want people to take advantage and get all of that, all of those supplies. We tell people, please don't wait last minute. And of course, that's always the case, right? Every time we see a storm in the Gulf, we announce it, and then you see the huge lines at HEB and everything is cleared out. And we really urge people, you really want to avoid that. And then this Saturday we'll have a lot of giveaways, so we highly encourage people to go.
Yeah, there's always great giveaways at that.
Yeah, and where is it? What time is it at?
Yes, so it'll be at George R. Brown, Hall A, and it's from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Free of charge?
Yes, completely free.
So go there and learn what you need to know.
Yes, and there'll be tons and tons of booths from the city, Harris County. I have a full list here. You can go to getreadyexpo.org and you'll see a full list of exhibitors. Not only will there be booths, there's going to be panels. There's going to be an English panel. You can ask the experts. I believe it's going to be mostly meteorologists, but it'll also be.
I was not asked to be on the panel this year.
Frank.
I know they left me out.
That panel was super long. So.
I still didn't get on it. And I'm a Billingsley with a B. You'd think they'd go alphabetically.
Well, you're now on the talk show list, not the weatherman list.
Let me ask you this: I was on this because we had the first South Shore Harbor was where we started all of this years ago, and then they moved it to the GRB as a Hurricane Expo, and then we went through a period where we didn't have any hurricanes, but we had floods and strong weather. From after Ike, from 2009 to until like 2015, we didn't have anything. But so then they made it the Hurricane and Flood Disaster.
Right. They've changed the name so many times.
Yes,
over the years.
And then they actually took it away because of funding. I want to say about 2 years ago, they stopped having it.
Well, I think it was because of COVID. So they stopped having it because of COVID, and then I think it slowly came back. I think this is the first year where they finally have it at the full scale that they used to before.
I was going to say, if people can't attend, where is the best resource online to get information like you would get there?
HoustonOEM.org. We have lots and lots of good information on there. We actually just revamped it. And so you'll get all your latest information there. We also have, now the website can be translated into Houston's 6 major languages. So it can be in whatever language you want. We have an accessibility ADA button to make it easy for anybody to access all of that information on our website.
Ruth, derecho was May last year. We had Hurricane Beryl in July. What were some of the lessons that the city learned from last year's weather events?
Yeah, so in every storm we learn something. We always say no two storms are the same. I think especially for derecho, it was for both derecho and Beryl. The main issue that we had was power outages. I mean, that was the number one issue that we had. Different from other storms like Harvey, it was the intense flooding. For this one, it was power outages. And since then, we always have our after actions after every storm. We work very, very closely with CenterPoint, and so we've revamped our plans. And so, every storm we're always learning.
One lesson I think we especially learned from Beryl, and I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but wind force is exponential, meaning that a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane force wind versus 95 is much, like 7 times more damage from 95 than 75. And it just goes up from there. So I think a lot of people were hit by Beryl, and they were like, what happened? Well, there were 92, 93-mile-an-hour winds. They're like, boy, it was just a Cat 1. Right. But a Cat 1 and a big Cat 1 that's almost a 2 are very different storms.
Yeah. And
that's
what I have to say.
And I think that one of the biggest things that we learned as just Houstonians was we became much more conscious about our trees and our shrubs and things and cleaning that up. Now, I asked Mark this, and I have to ask you this, Ruth. In your experience of working with the city of Houston and the OEM, what always surprises you after a hurricane season most?
After hurricane season, I guess I wouldn't say really surprising, but I think we do so many outreach events, presentations, booths, and all of that. And the first question that we always ask people, we're like, okay, when does hurricane season start? And so many people don't know.
When hurricane season starts.
Yeah,
we know it because Frank says it in his sleep.
Yeah.
He knows when it starts. To go to the Expo just really quickly, too, it's not just the city of Houston is there. You guys bring in Harris County, Fort Bend, Metro's there, Red Cross.
Yes.
Being able to bring all of these folks together, how much better is it as a resource for us as Houstonians?
Well, I think with an event like this, you can go to one place and talk to everybody you want to talk to. And so we really, really encourage folks to go. We also have a dedicated Spanish stage, a Spanish area for our Spanish speakers. I'm actually leading the Spanish panel on Saturday. And so it's just such a great resource. And a lot of times whenever we have events or other organizations have events, it's, they're like, oh, well, I live in Fort Bend and this is only for the city of Houston, or I live here. And, and so this is your opportunity where we're all combined. You can come and get all of the resources and all of the information that you need.
Excellent.
Wow. Nice.
Ruth Tovar is the Public Information Officer at City of Houston Office of Emergency Management. Ruth, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we have you covered with what's happening around town with our last-minute plans. And we love hearing from you. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Stay with us.
A healthy democracy depends on people like you having access to clear, trustworthy news. That's how you can make informed choices about your future.
Houston Public Media's reporting gives you the facts without the noise, so you can make decisions with confidence.
But we can't do that without your support. Stand up for your right to information.
Support the reporting that you count on at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour, Jake Tapper on how Joe Biden tried to conceal his decline from the country.
Every White House is surrounded by people to help make them look as good as possible. So a lot of those tools, note cards and teleprompter, etc., that were put there innocently enough became crutches and ultimately tools of the cover-up.
Jake Tapper, next time on the New Yorker Radio Hour.
You can hear it Sunday morning at 9 o'clock.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu. Support comes from Novotny & Company, offering commercial and residential property tax protests for 38 years. The deadline to file a protest is May 21st in Harris County. Info and online filing at novotnycompany.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Upreach Learning, presenting a summer academic boot camp for high school students to prepare for core STEM classes or the SAT exam. Camps begin June 2nd. Registration info at upreachlearning.org.
We believe in your right to free information. Help protect trusted news that keeps us all informed by supporting Houston Public Media. Stand up for your right to information. Give today at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manouse, Celeste Díaz Schurman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello, weekend. Houston.
Yes, I asked at the beginning of this hour if we thought the weekend was. Now I'm feeling like I'm in the weekend. I'm here.
Yeah.
I always like Downton Abbey. What's a weekend?
Downton Abbey, never heard of that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Heard of that show, Ernie?
Actually, somebody stopped me the other day and said, "It's so nice to see you. I haven't seen you since Downton Abbey." And I was like, wow, people still remember Manner of Speaking.
I was on
Never
it twice.
Forget.
Because you were such a good guest.
Well,
did you ever
I
think
showed up on time.
Yeah. Did you ever think we'd end up sitting next to each other
It
doing
was
it every
always
day?
a boy can dream. Or a boy can dream. So what do you got going on this weekend?
Well, everyone knows what I got going on.
Well, not the whole. What are you doing tonight?
Tonight I'm preparing for tomorrow.
God, what are you doing Sunday?
Resting up from the Eurovision party.
I think am actually going to a polo match this weekend with some girlfriends.
That's a lot of fun. Are you going to be on the sun hit you in the face side or the sun hit you on the back side?
I have no idea because I usually just say, sure.
Yeah.
I used to have a box at polo, and I used to go every weekend, and I loved it. Never really understood how the game worked exactly.
No,
It's
that's
kind of
like
like
all of
hockey
them.
on horses, as well as I could tell. But, oh my God, just being out there, it's a lovely experience.
It
being in
is,
the
but
park.
it's a little hot for me to dress up properly.
And that's why they have two seasons. They do the spring and the fall, but they don't do it in the summer because it's too hot.
Well, she's going
Gotta take
tomorrow.
a
It might as
pause
well
while
be
I'll
summer.
there.
Right, might as well be.
But, as Frank said, we've reached the end of the week here on Hello Houston. And with the weekend upon us, we have some last minute plans for our faithful listeners and watchers.
Yeah.
Come out and see me. iFest USA, free admission, family friendly. It's at Discovery Green. For free tickets, click on the Find Tickets and go to register.
Well, I have a haircut today and a mani-pedi after that.
Can we come and see that?
Then I put Eurovision on my calendar for Saturday.
Thank you, Eurovision,
I'm not
starting at 1
promising
o'clock.
you that I can be there, but I'll
Hold
try.
one second, just my plug, 1 o'clock. You can come, no ticket, free of charge.
Yeah.
Montrose Country Club. Go on.
I have dinner with a friend. A bunch of friends, like 8 of us, are going out to dinner on Saturday, and then I have a birthday party on Sunday.
So when you go out as a group for dinner, how do you decide where to go? This is our biggest problem.
We go to the
always.
same places almost all the time.
Just do your rotation.
Kind of, yeah. But I've been exploring some new places. We went to Lombardi's. It was really good Italian.
Yeah.
That was fun. Yeah, we did that.
Last
you know what?
night-
If it's not close, I don't do it.
Last
because
night-
I Uber everywhere, and I can't afford to Uber
far
away.
Yes, you can. Last night I judged the Sangria Festival and for the women's shelter, the Houston area women's shelter. But the cool thing about it was a bunch of restaurants that I hadn't really been to, so I got a whole list of new restaurants to try and go
Sampling.
to.
That sounds delicious. And on Saturday, Main Street Theater will begin running the award-winning play Kim's Convenience, which was the basis of the hit Netflix series of the same name. The play, like the series, follows Mr. Kim, a Korean immigrant who runs a Toronto convenience store in an up-and-coming neighborhood. And then all week long, the Museum of Fine Arts Houston will hold screenings of the critically acclaimed film, Nora. This film won 5 Academy Awards at this year's Oscars, including Best Picture and the Palme d'Or at the 2024 Cannes Film Festival.
You know what?
Speaking of which,
Joining us right now to tell us more from the Museum of Fine Arts Houston and the screening of Nora is Marian Luntz, MFAH's film curator, who, believe it or not, if I have this right, is joining us from Cannes herself in France. Marian, what are you doing in Cannes?
What do you think? Hi, Celeste and Frank. Congrats on your show. I
Thank
guess I
you.
should say bonjour. Then. But yeah, we're really happy to be showing Nora, which had its actual world premiere here at Cannes a year ago and won the top prize, the Palme d'Or, and went through the award season, picking up more awards. And as you just mentioned, lots of Oscars. We're showing it in the Lynn Wyatt Theater this weekend on 35 millimeter, which is the format that the really prefer, Sean Baker. So we'll be showing it in our beautiful Lynn Wyatt Theater tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday. And we encourage people to experience it on the big screen with others.
Okay, back to my first question. What are you doing in Cannes? Is this just a way to get out of Houston because it's too warm?
I heard that. Well, you should be coming here too, of course, to live remote your show. I come every year looking for films to bring to Houston to our audiences at the MFAH. In fact, we have other films that are coming up in our film program in the weeks ahead. But it's just a pleasure to be able to films, go to parties that I just did, and come and talk to you about you. And we'll be bringing the latest and greatest of films from around the world to Houston audiences in the months ahead.
Wow. Do you get to see a lot of movie stars?
Maybe a little bit, Frank. We get to go on the red carpet. I'm hoping because we have 2 Texas filmmakers, in fact, with connections, Rick Lincoln and Anderson, premiering their latest films here, that I might get a ticket and get to walk the red carpet with their movie stars of those movies. And you see people walking around who are dressed up nicely, and you think, it's the first thing they look great.
Marian, we're having a little trouble with your connection there, so I'm not sure if we can stay with it much longer, but congratulations and have a wonderful time in Cannes. And
Much. Great to see you. Have a good week.
Find some good movies for us and bring them back to Houston.
See,
Thank you.
Yeah. Fortunately, since, we're hearing aids, I'm a good lip reader.
Oh, so you were able to follow the whole thing through. Marian has been with the museum for years and years and years and has done an amazing job at building out that film program. If you haven't been to the MFAH, and now they have the new Lynn Wyatt Theater, which is really spectacular and wonderful.
Like she is.
Like Lynn Wyatt herself. But it's a great place because all too often these days in films, we all know it, those big blockbusters take up the movie theaters, and you don't see enough of the art or the movement in the whole artistry of filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And the MFAH not only looks at what's new and fresh on the scene, but also classic films that we mentioned earlier. It's a classic film movie day or something like that, I called it. So, yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity to go and see them, and it's a great place to do it.
And I think that we don't realize that they have a full a person who's a curator who's going out there and really selecting the best of the best, like you said, in the cinematography and the art.
Yeah, I feel really out of step. I didn't realize that they showed films at the museum.
Oh my, they have a wonderful program.
Just found that out.
Okay,
recently.
thank you, Celeste.
So
I appreciate you having my back there.
I'm surprised they do a series of films called Films Houstonians Love, and a few years ago they asked me to present a film. I did Mildred Pierce was the one that I loved.
Craig Cohen did
one
too.
Craig Cohen just did it. I think the beginning of this year. His was the Muppet movie. Tells you. I have a funny feeling if you said which hosts at Houston Public Media, which one would pick Mildred Pierce and who would pick the Muppet movies, you'd have gotten us backwards on that one.
Yes.
But it's a great program, and they do different things, and you can get the schedule. You can go online at the MFAH and look and see what's coming up in their series and what they're doing that's unique and different. That's just some of the stuff that's going on this weekend. We invite you to share with us, what are you doing this weekend? Tell us about something we may not know. 713-440-8870. Yes, Frank?
Well, I forgot something that I'm doing this weekend.
It better not be a big one.
Well, it is. Kevin just texted me, and we have two dear friends that had a baby last February. And so the baptism is tomorrow. I know. And if it was anything like their wedding, it's going to last a while.
Well, then you won't be coming to Eurovision. Is that what you're telling me?
No, it's at noon tomorrow. So
maybe, we're at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. So, it'll probably go past 1, and there'll be a little party after that. But little Logan's baptism tomorrow, which I haven't been to a baptism since I think I went on my own. It's been.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably the same for me.
It's been a while. So
I love weddings. I love baptisms.
You want to go?
I cry.
What are you doing?
I'll crash a baptism.
I don't think there's a big market for that. There's a lot of other wonderful stuff going on in the area.
Really is.
The Pasadena Strawberry Festival is going on through May 18th.
How fun.
If you're
They
into
used to always send me this huge basket of strawberries so that I would talk about it on TV.
Well, let's get them
and
to
it
do
worked.
it again.
It
I love
absolutely worked.
strawberries. There's
Delicious.
also the Houston Greek Festival. This is not Annunciations in downtown, but it's the one out at St. Basil's, the Great Greek Orthodox Church. That's 16th and 17th. They just do Friday and Saturday. So if you're feeling a need for something Greek, go to the Houston Greek Fest.
Also on Friday, you can catch comedian and actress Melissa Villaseñor perform stand-up at Houston Improv. She's known as the first ever Latina cast member of Saturday Night Live and known for her memorable impressions, which include Owen Wilson, Lady Gaga, and Dolly Parton, among others. How cool is that? Shout out to Latina Power.
Her impressions are amazing. You may not realize that she does them because if you know her from Saturday Night Live, but some of her stuff is just... It's funny. I printed up a list of events happening in Houston on Saturday, May 17th. The first one is Ernie's Eurovision Party. The second one is International Festival that you're doing, Celeste.
Yeah.
So they're both there. Then Miller Outdoor Theater has some great stuff going on. Remember, Miller is always free and open to the public. They usually heavy load their weekend with the bigger stuff. And the trick is, though, if you want tickets, you can either get them online or go to the box office morning of. And so they begin usually about the time of dusk. So
Still
about
can't vote
8:30.
online, but you can get those.
You can get those tickets, yeah.
Can't get lottery tickets online anymore either.
Doing a little spring cleaning.
Are you?
I am this weekend.
Yeah.
Spring cleaning.
Like I said earlier, if it doesn't bring you joy,
you hold it.
Yeah.
It's the Marie Kondo, isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Marie Kondo?
Yes.
Marie Kondo,
where you hold it and you ask, does this bring me joy?
And she says start with clothes. And I think clothes are the easiest to get rid of. Well, we've been doing
not
this.
for me.
I
can't get rid of clothes.
Well,
I recently read an article about Marie Kondo who has 2 young kids, and she said that She's
like, I can't do it.
I'm over this.
Get rid
also
of the
want to
diapers.
mention over in Sugarland.
No, Philip. Does this bring me joy?
Sugarland is having the Sweet Beats International Music Festival at Crown Festival Park. That's from 2 to 10:30 p.m. Saturday night. And Viva Frida, an art exhibit at Mecca on the East End is ongoing. You might want to take a look at that.
Mecca has great events. They always do really, really fabulous
And
events.
one of the tidbits we missed is AMC Theaters announced Monday they're going to slash ticket prices by 50%
on
every Wednesday
during
this
the summer.
I'm excited about that.
I'm excited about that, too.
I'm going to get a big bucket of popcorn.
Yeah.
Like Ernie last summer.
I love my popcorn. Also, we have stories about my popcorn bucket. Also, it is International Museum Day on Sunday, so support a local museum. The MFAH is doing discounted exhibits. I'm sure many museums are. So get out there, take a look at what's going on in our wonderful, vibrant theater scene.
That's
nice.
right.
There you go.
Guys, it is officially the weekend yet? Or no?
Well, for
Frank,
us.
What do you have going on? You just about to say something.
I was going to say about the World Cup committee.
Yes.
I know. FIFA has decided it's going to take place, the Fan Fest is going to take place on the streets and parking lots of Edu.
But not till 2026.
That's a year away.
So
It'll
that's
come
not
quick.
Not this weekend,
plans.
but in 2026, we got you covered.
It'll come quick.
That brings us to the end of the week for Hello Houston. We want to thank you for listening, watching, commenting, texting. Keep it coming.
Explaining things to us.
Enjoy your Eurovision weekend. We'll be back here on Monday.
We're back on Monday with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Rice University's Baker Institute, offering a forum for...
You're listening to News 88.7, 85 degrees here at the University of Houston at KUHF Houston. This is News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. Science Friday is coming up